All right. Okay. All right. So I wasn't gonna do a reading today, but since I have so many hours before my flight, we're going to the airport. Why not? Okay, it's all pulled up. Share screen. All right, Libra Sun, Virgo Moon, third, second, rising Leo, back to back to back signs, Mars, and then Moon square, Jupiter square Uranus, which are conjunct. So already right off the rip, there's going to be a very dynamic personality. Um, and I think that the third house, Gemini Sun, it's a very big voice. Um, Neptune squaring the Mercury. But with any Leo rising, it makes the sun the ruling planet, so it becomes more important. And the area of life that the third house sun is really good with is kind of the day by day communication, just it creates an active person who has a tendency to be very good with logic, very intelligent. Now, Moon and Virgo would definitely add to that. Although there can be a potential for being a little bit back and forth with things, with emotions. As you know, the moon represents our where we're at emotionally, or like what we need emotionally to be happy. Wow, my camera was way off. I need to lay back though. Um, so Moon in Virgo, I always talk about how it's a Mercury ruled moon. So oftentimes yeah, I would say they can overly identify with logic as opposed to emotions at times. Um, and a very common, especially with Mars and Virgo, a very common thing is perfectionism. And then with Mercury there as well. Now, I'm sure this isn't the first time you've heard this. Um, Interesting. So the South Node is with Neptune in Sag. So the North Node is in Gemini. You usually get the opposite. It's very interesting. You're born in 83. Okay. Um, well, any squares mutable 19. Mercury. Yeah. So, hmm. Well, so karmically, South Node, North Node is really based on the idea of the South Node being the been there, done that, the North Node being where we're trying to get to. So if you think of many different lifetimes, and there's a real it's very easy for us to just do the same default thing over and over, right? But when we're growing, we're moving towards our North Node. Now, it doesn't always feel very comfortable, but we are still growing and moving in that direction. So with it in Gemini, I often in with the square to Mercury, the way I would think of that would be someone who is here to unlearn the need to be not necessarily to be right all the time, but it's basically very, very important for you to develop communication skills in this lifetime. That's probably why you are a Libra sun. I always find there's a karmic reason why someone is a sun sign. They are. Because you would think like, oh, someone's a Pisces, they're probably sorry, I'm just gonna open some windows, get some lighting in here. But you know, you might think someone's a Pisces because oh, they're naturally really, really good when it comes to everything Pisces, you know, or Cancers are really good at feeling their emotions. Sometimes no. Sometimes it's like that person has actually gotten, has actually emerged past, has kind of outgrown the need to incarnate with those energies, with the other energies, and that's what they need. So, yeah, South Node, and I'm gonna go on and off between sharing. So yeah, so the South Node there definitely is all about um backing away from just getting straight into conclusions. I found that people, and especially with a square to Mercury, that is about karmic introjects. So different thought processes that have probably been pushed forward in this lifetime, whether it's through your parents, your early schooling, whatever, wherever it's come from. But overall, people who have that, they tend to have, and they're very unconscious, right? It's very hard to see this in yourself, but these negative thought patterns, like, for example, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to have this job. I'm not good enough to be in this to have this, to be with this person. And they become self-fulfilling prophecies over time. So North Node and Gemini, and also with the square to Mercury, the way I would think of it is that it's not necessarily that there's been a karmic issue with the core of your message and your truth. It's more, especially with Neptune there, that indicates someone who's very spiritual, who's attained high spiritual truths, or high spiritual, who's attained high spirituality in past lives. But the goal in this life is to be able to translate it to everyday people, which doesn't necessarily mean getting on Instagram and talking about spiritual stuff. It might just mean in your, the people that you're around, in your family, whatever. It could mean that, but it doesn't always have to, right? Or else, I think that a lot more people would be doing that kind of content, or content in general. So, yeah, so I would say, like, there is this a real high ability when it comes to understanding philosophy, like high philosophy and big ideas, big picture, but then understanding that everyone has their own truth, right? And I would say also one issue, not issue, but one thing I see with North, South Node and Sag, North Node, Gemini, is those people want to be very, very free, right? Freedom is essential. Um, and it's almost like Gemini, it's pushing you to be a citizen of the world, right? And getting you to adapt. It's about learning adaptability, learning that, um, learning to not just think like your truth is the truth, essentially, right? Because so many people can have, and that's like, with people with a lot of Sagittarius, sometimes I see that, right? It's like the mindset is like, I spent so much time, I'm a Sag moon, so yeah. That's like, I've spent so much time figuring out what's true to me, you should follow it. That kind of idea. So, let's see. So another karmic lesson with North Node and Gemini is learning to be more open to other people. There is a tendency to kind of be the seven philosopher hermit. Now, being a Libra, it's a very social sun sign, but still, Virgo moons can go either way. I've noticed they can be social. I feel like being the opposite of Pisces, they tend to need, to want to retreat to like a nice, comfortable home, and they want things to be in order, and it's like having everything in the way that makes them satisfied is really, really important. Um, so a lot of times that is alone or with someone that, that gets them 1,000,000%, all the little small things. So yeah, I think like working on social skills, working on like the base levels of communication so you can communicate with people from all walks of life. Because a South Node and Sag, oftentimes traveling and seeing the world and acquiring different philosophies and truth comes pretty easily to them, right? There's a lot of been there, done that with that, which is great. With Gemini, it's like, I'll give you an example. If Sag is the articles, the news, the philosophy books, like the truths, right? Gemini is the data that it takes with respect to finding those truths. So it's like with any study, you have to go do the research first. If the study is based on faulty research, then what good is the study? So that nodal axis is about in your life thinking about what that could mean. What could that mean? Doing the groundwork, getting the data. In what areas of your life are there any ways where you haven't done enough? Like, okay, I can give you such a good example. I'm not gonna name any names, but there's an astrologer I know who never asks why. They, they post a lot of stuff that they almost act like it's like a sure fact, but it's really all bullshit for the most part, and it's very misleading to the people who follow this person. I can see it because I'm an astrologer and I know what's real and what's not, and you know, it's not. And at the very, like at its highest, it's stuff that like maybe has like a tiny bit of importance, right? But like nothing worth posting about. So that is a great example of if I were to go on that Instagram and believe what that person says, then my Sagittarius truth would be going the wrong way. So it's really about looking at where you get information from, learning to communicate properly, right? And having tact and diplomacy, right? And that's another reason why you're a Libra. So you can tune into other people's needs and emotions and see where they're at. So also another thing is learning to focus. Sometimes with this axis, it can be someone who is a jack of all trades, master of none. So, it's like I said, balance between the being able to see the big picture and gathering the pieces, as I said. Um, I would say also there tends to be a certain restlessness I've noticed with this nodal axis, where, like I said, I deal with a lot of people who have North Node in Sag, not South Node. So, but when I have had people with both, I've seen that the people with yours with Sag South Node, sometimes there can be this like restlessness of wanting to go here, stay there, stay here, stay there, and maybe be too far into the distance, into the future. So I think like, yeah, that goes back into being responsible and being grounded. Um, Now, one of the most important parts about this, and this goes with the Neptune there, is being able to transform your beliefs in a way that's able to help others, right? Because it's in the fifth house, the South Node and the North Node's in the 11th. So you're here to take your past life beliefs and spiritual teachings and find a way, even if it's not in spirituality or whatever, find a way to transmute those to other people. You see, and like learning to listen is very important. Can't force something down someone's throat or they just won't listen. So like being able to like understand someone, and sometimes the one, I'm not saying that you do this, but one shadow of Sag is there can be like a philosophical high horse tendency. So you know, being able to listen and appreciate other people and where they're at and not judge, that's when people really see, okay, I can go this person. And you can have a very motivational effect on them. So yeah, and like with any Sag placement, as I said, like they can be very self-righteous when they're young. They get older and they start to learn that, okay, this person has a different truth than me based on their experience, right? And that there can be different truths that exist in the same time. So yeah, and then I would say like another good point with that is, Gemini is also fact and Sag is philosophy, which can sometimes border on opinion. So yeah, just being like the more able you are to change your views and have that like energy of like, okay, I know nothing. Um, the more I know, the more I know nothing. That's awesome. So I think also with any Sag node, South node and Sag, it can feel a little bit alienating because they can just love learning so much and not have other people around them that really do, especially when it comes to, yeah, spirituality, philosophy, languages, anything about other cultures. And it can just feel very, yeah, very like alone in that respect and in your interests, potentially, right? Feeling misunderstood, which can make someone feel hurt, lonely, and they might retreat, right? Um, but yeah, very, very intellectual, lots of time reading, lots of time learning. But sometimes what I've seen that can happen with this is annoying thing to say on whatever, is that they can almost like, yeah, it's what I said earlier. It's like they can learn so much and perhaps not have with the square of Mercury the best way of transmuting it, or maybe it's the people around them that just aren't receptive to it. And it can get very, very annoying, and either they alienate themselves and they kind of, which is what, like, to be honest, it's what I do. Like, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I am at a point in myself, in my intellectual, spiritual growth and wisdom, and not just spiritual, just about the world and you know everything I know. I'm constantly learning, right? And the gap is so far between me and anyone in my family that it's just like and they're not stupid at all, right? They're not stupid. They just don't have that Sagittarius. This is what I'm trying to explain to you. It's like this is the Sag energy, right? And honestly, it's not so bad because like you like I'm actually a very good example of this, right? Because I used to have an energy where it's like, oh my God, learning astrology, learning all this spiritual, mystical material. I need this person, this person, this person. Like my brother, for example, like if you would just listen to one reading, it would change your life. And like I know it would, but then I think in recent years I've just given up. But now it's probably gone to an extreme where like I won't even talk about it. Same with politics, same with you name the subject, right? Besides basketball and animals, I'm probably not going to talk to anyone in my family about it, right? Maybe my dad, but even he unfortunately didn't come up during the time of YouTube and the internet. If he did, but he definitely has like the natural ability. I think my mom, it just sucks that their generation had so much um brainwashing, because she is very smart and she is anti whatever. This isn't about my parents. But the point is that you see how with the nose you shift to extremes. That's a tendency, right? And this also can be with the moon sign. So because your North Node is in the 11th, you're here to give back to humanity, and you have had lifetimes where it was more about you, not necessarily in a selfish way, but maybe you were an artist, maybe you're a creator, right? Maybe you're just a big spiritualist. So, but I definitely don't think that you were able to find, like, it would be very nice for you to find a social circle, group of people that you can connect to with respect to these types of subjects. So yeah, the balance between listening and talking is really important. But like as I was saying with my story, that transitioned into how I am now. But like now I'm thinking like, is it good to be how I am? Right? Like, is it good to just, because it's sad, but you know, and maybe that's just how it is for humans today. But when I'm around family, I mean, when I'm around most people, the things I find interesting, the things I want to talk about, I can't like, I feel uncomfortable talking about them, because of the judgment, even if it's not there, right? So instead, even if I'm asked about it, I don't want to talk about it, you know? Like, yeah, if my mom asks me alone about something astrological, I'll give like a little answer. And she's never judged me about it, right? But it's just like, it's just weird, right? So it's like, what is the balance? The balance is, even though I know that I know a lot more, I still like to understand how. I still in my head think like, even though I do know a lot, I like to try on different philosophies, right? Like red pill, all this, we could say a lot of it's garbage, right? Content. Anything that has like a cultural kind of swing to it that's like popular for certain people, I'll check it out just to see, like, because I'm interested in this, and simply that why how can someone be so passionate about this? I just want to know where they're coming from easily, right? So that's led me to understand people better, and that's, I think, kind of the counter here with your nodal stuff is that kind of energy. And even with people in my family, you know, like I'll hear someone out if at the end of that I see something like, let's say I send my brother something, and I'm gonna stop talking about my family. Just an example, like let's say you can take clues. Let's say it's your friend or whatever. Like I send him a really interesting podcast, right, about biohacking, and just it's I'm obviously sending it to him because of the guest, right? Um, who's the main guy talking, just because he doesn't like the YouTubers who are running the podcast, who aren't bad at all, by the way. He doesn't know anything about them. He saw one skit and then was like, "Fuck these guys." So just because of that, he denies watching this entire. It was one of the most important podcasts ever by this guy Brecka, Brecka, Gary Brecka, and it was just amazing. All the stuff about nutrition and um like extending your life and yeah, just crazy. So anyways, just health in general. But when I send that to him, yeah, him just saying like, oh, like I don't like the Nelk Boys, the name of these guys, right? I'm just like, it just like, it hits you and you're just like, okay, well, that's the last time I tried reaching out about something that could help you. But anyways, that's an example. So take that for what you will, apply it to your life, give it some thought. All right. So, I guess what we could say though is Virgo moons oftentimes can have a level of anxiety, um, emotional anxiety. I feel like they have to like really think a lot. Like they can really overthink and there's a lot of perfectionism built in. So they it comes from this need to really create order in their inner world. So they're more drawn to logic, right? It's very, very active, very active moon sign. So Virgo moons, they gotta be moving and doing things and thinking and talking. The thing is, they're very special people, but they usually, oftentimes, not usually, don't realize it. They can, because they're so hard on themselves, right? They're super critical, and especially with Mars and Virgo, that can project, and Mercury. I've seen that project outwards to where someone just cannot allow themselves to they cannot allow themselves to be good. They can't acknowledge how great they've done in some way, right? And a lot of the times it's because a lot of times that comes from a mother or just an early nurturing system that pushed this perfection. Um, Maybe love was received if they were able to be a certain way. So yeah, but they are very neat, reliable, serious people. They have that sense of duty, lots of the attention to detail, and they're also quite nurturing, and they like to be of service and help people. I think with Virgo moons, um, they in love, I would say that they need someone who also fits that, has that same framework of organization. And it sounds nerdy when I'm saying it, but I'm the same way, like to an extent, right? Actually, I don't know. I'm a head case. Because like on one end, it's like Virgo is a mutable planet. So I have seen Virgos who are like the most usually Virgo suns, but Virgo moons too, who are like the most spiritual people. It's usually once they're able to get past that perfectionism. But I think I haven't seen many people who are Virgos who are bad people. Like it's so rare for me. And it's that earth energy, and it tends to bring them down to earth, right? So you kind of know what you can expect from them sometimes. But then Leo rising kind of makes you a showstopper, It's a good mix. I think that they're quite good. Like I said, there can be, Mercury rules the rational mind, thinking, logic. So when the moon's ruled by that, since Mercury rules Virgo, the emotional nature takes on those types of intellectual tones. So yeah, usually they are quite controlled emotionally, and they also like, yeah, with the word control, they like to feel in control of a situation, right? And sometimes there is that massive over analyzation of everything. So it's like, how can a Virgo moon learn to be more like their opposite sign Pisces? Is that they learn about faith and about trusting the unknown, and the more they can do that, the better, right? um and if they can, yeah, I would say like with love, it's like you have to first pass through that filter where they decide if you're worthy of their time, attention, love, right? But then when you're there, they will really care for you for life. Like they're very, very loyal, and um, not just as lovers, as friends too. Because they're thinking like Virgo moon, you have to understand it's like always on. And my mom's a Virgo, so I've been with a Virgo energy for a while. And like I'm this like head case Pisces Sag, right? And I'm gonna turn some more lights or some lights on. It's just interesting to come into contact with different zodiac signs, right? But they're just, I feel like it's hard for them to see like not everyone's like that, not everyone is just always on and always like willing to go, you know, I don't know, what's a random example from the last 2 hours? Asking me if she wanted if she wanted me to go down the street to the store and grab a baguette because I'm traveling tonight. And I was like, no, like I appreciate it, but like little things like that. but then also like the excessive worrying, about little things. And sometimes I would say trying to fill life with, it's not even bad though, because it's like, what is life anyways, Like life can be so monotonous and useless sometimes. It's not, but like it can feel that way. And I feel like Virgos are good at filling up their time, but sometimes they fill it with things that are actually useless, right? So I think when you think about Pisces and Virgo, and I know you don't have Pisces, but it's like Pisces is the big purpose. It's the Neptunian, it's the goal, it's the dream. So it's like when a Virgo can take a little bit of that meditative inspiration and dream and see the bigger picture, which South and Sag will do, then they can kind of, in your case, lean into their sun energy, and their ascendant energy is the Leo Libra artist, right? The line, the courage, the courageous. I'm a Leo rising also, very close degrees. Um, it just gives that swagger and that look at me energy. Um, so it's a fun rising sign. People can definitely get jealous of Leo risings though. Um, I'm not saying that Leo risings are just better looking people. That's not true. I've seen some very not good looking, but they tend to have quite a regal look to them. Not always though, but they definitely have this enthusiasm, um, this jovialness. They're smiley nearly all the time. So yeah, as a Libra, obviously you have to watch out for people pleasing and for boundaries. Libras are pretty shitty at that usually. So once again, that's the energy of, so if you have perfectionism in the moon and the sun, it's like always balancing. Oh, like, am I going to put myself down to make this person happy? No, and that's where you lean into the opposite sign of Aries for the sun. So that's about just assertiveness and independence, right? But back to the moon a little bit, um, which I consider to be the most important. They need things clean. Um, they don't like games usually, like games people play in relationships, and they're quite practical, right? They're quite practical. And when it comes to emotional involvement, they can actually be quite rational and be more slow to get involved, right? But yeah, and they definitely want clarity. Like I said, no games. So I think the idea of cleanliness is interesting because it's like, yeah, they want physical cleanliness in their house and where they live, but also in their relationships and their life. It's a good word if you think about it. So yeah, they like their mind. I would say it's high vibe Virgo moon to be to really be mindful of like how much is this thought, especially in your case, this when Mercury squares the nodes, that means that that planet Mercury is a skipped karmic step. So you have to do something about that, and it's probably something related to communication, how like I was saying earlier, how you get your message across, or um, thoughts that you have in your head that keep you down. So really having mindfulness around those is really important, and telling yourself, okay, like, do I need this or do I not? Right. But yeah, very like Virgo moons usually hide their emotions. Like they'll only, very sensitive souls for sure. So they'll only like they can sometimes be quite guarded. Professionally, very reliable. They're very good managers and people in high positions. Really, really good, especially with your Mars and Virgo. Amazing attention to detail. Um, and usually, actually, in my experience, um, when they're mature, they're very good with constructive criticism, right? And they almost like are willing to do work for other people to help other people grow. So so okay. So with Venus where it is, so speaking about love, well actually no, let's talk about the moon. So moon square Uranus, right? How's my camera doing? Good. Okay, Moon square Uranus is interesting. Well, first of all, Moon conjunct Uranus, which I usually don't talk about, but I find it interesting. It's so close. I think that makes someone very good with new ideas, and it's also very good for the occult. And very, very, very not someone who does not like restriction, right? So that's already one aspect. So then you squares the Moon. Now, psychologically, it can make someone a little bit very like they want to try so hard to stand out from the crowd. Um, but what was I gonna say? Yeah. Moon square Uranus people, I would say that especially with like I would not be surprised if anxiety was something, or like the brain moving, brain mind moving too fast. But like I would not be surprised if that was something that you've gone through in your life. Moon square Uranus, there's this real need for stimulation, right? So it's like it gives someone, people who have that, a lot of times their parents are divorced, not always. Um, Very independent nature, but sometimes, yeah, they can go out of their way too much to prove I'm so different, So it's like about bringing that in, and being in a place where, because Uranus is about individualization, right? So it's like they can be so rebellious to a point where it's like, are you really doing this because you care about what you're rebelling for or against, or are you doing it just so other people see you that way, right? Now, relationally, this can create commitment issues, because sometimes they will always want the new and shiny thing. Um, I've seen people with this who are serial daters. They bounce around a lot. They find something wrong with the person all the time. Now, Venus in Leo is a lot more loyal than that, so that's good. But and Moon in Virgo, but they do need, on some level, their emotional life to be quite interesting. Um, and they can be very compulsive emotionally. So yeah, I've seen people with this who like need to move like every few years, and they can't stand being like not standing out from the crowd. So it's like the Moon isn't Virgo, but that adds kind of an Aquarius energy to it. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, so definitely with commitment issues, I've seen that one show up big time. Um, yeah, I've seen a lot of that. And a lot of times, like the way that they experience their mother slash their early nurturing was like very kind of on and off. Like in some cases, it was, yeah, like I said, like I've seen a lot of people divorce, or people who like moved around a lot as a kid. Oh yeah. Mm. Yeah. Also, I think people are usually, yeah, with that, not so great about talking about feelings. I think it would add another layer of intellectualization. And you can have long-term relationships, right? I've seen a lot of people. I've dated someone with this, right? But like it's about needing distance and needing someone who, yes, has the Virgo moon stuff, who's someone who's an organized person, who's a consistent person, who understands your needs in that respect, but then also like, where you can like take what I call energetic breaks, right? Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes, like, and tell me if I'm wrong. I hope you're taking notes, or this the first the not the first time you watch it, but if you I'm sure you'll watch it multiple times, that you have notes for a follow up. But I want to know, um, I've seen people where like the mom, like I've seen narcissism, workaholism, stuff like that with this type of aspect. I want to know because it's how I learned. So, but yeah, I'm just like this is how it is. Like there's so much info in my brain that I'm just trying to like kind of siphon through what's most important. Yeah, I guess like with that one, it hasn't been divorce always, but it has usually never been like things were so chill. Things are so good between mom and dad, or between you and mom and dad. I've seen sometimes people where things got worse over time, some things where things got better over time, right? It's kind of random. Like Uranus is a random planet. Yeah, definitely seen a lot of crazy stuff. But yeah, usually the mom is weird in some way. There's some weird energy. Um, hmm. But I've noticed that people with this in relationships, they're usually easily able to get over them when they finish friendships, relationships, just and they can just move on quite well. Um, whether that's from a divorce or from a situation early on that kind of showed them that, you can't really rely on much in life. Yeah, but I think like a lot of people I've heard with this, um, just have commitment issues, and I've heard people who just never want to get married until slash if they met like someone important, and then they were like, okay, I can do this. But yeah, needing that alone time is huge. So, but yeah, it also adds to your intelligence and your emotional intelligence and intuition. Now with Jupiter, that's just more about the potential for being self-indulgent, apathetic, um, just the need to like learn self-discipline and not be with that South Node Neptune energy of like everything's just gonna work out perfectly. So it's like that's where the Virgo energy really helps you. And that's why you have the Virgo energy, because in this life you're here to construct something of significance. There's been past lives where you've been too in that kind of blase, if that's even a word. I know you're Mercury in Virgo. It's gonna like yeah, it's not good to say words around Mercury and Virgos that and Mars and Virgos that are not perfect. Sometimes I just say random things. I hope you don't mind. um, but yeah, like I would say that's very interesting to me. Now you have Venus with Regulus, but I'll talk about that later. But that's a royal star. I have my ascendant there. Oh, you have your ascendant on your Venus on my ascendant. Nice, 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 nice. Let's see. I don't know why I just did a kissy sun. Weird, dude. Oh, damn, that's in the fifth. Okay. So Mercury. Okay, so this is very interesting. Mercury ruling your moon and your Mars. It is in its own sign of Virgo. So that creates like a person who is very second house, very ingenious usually when it comes to making money. Um, quick intelligence, quick witty intelligence, very analytical, very discriminating. There's a word. Um, they're good at analyzing data, being critical when they need to be, um, very good with words, just in general with words. They like to read, um, They usually have no trouble in school, but with the square to Neptune, watch out, or wait before I explain what that one is. That one's crazy, and I need you to take notes. I need you to see when I say take notes, it's a very Virgo. Someone's Virgo, like I can tell them that, and they'll like that. They'll be like, yes, and I'll be like, thank you, yes, I love that too. And I hope that you add the current astrology. I would be willing to do that for a discount too, where it'd be 260 instead of 350. And basically, you already have the first hour, the follow-up, which is all about this natal, never changes. It's a seamless move into what is typically 3 hours. The last one it was 3.5. In my head, I'm like, come on, keep them less than 3, but we just get in the zone. And that's me explaining all of your current astrology to you. I've gotten pretty amazing at, I mean, I don't know. Things have been pretty wild. The last one it was insane. I was calling shit out to the month, to use my language. Um, yeah. But let me know, and I'll write that down actually right now that I offered to you for 260 because that is not something that I always do. Unless you feel like paying full price. I'm always happy with that. But yeah. Okay. So you just gotta let me know on email, please, not DM, because guessing it's an astrology at gmail.com. Yeah, so it'd be a 3 hour session. It would be all live, obviously, and record it, send it to you private, all that stuff. Okay. Mercury in Virgo with part of fortune is adding a basic principle that when you are not over analyzing and you are just in that energy of taking in data, almost working your brain in that consistent wheels turning type way, but not being hard on yourself because it squares the nodes. So still focusing on new ways of communicating. Everything I said at the start of the reading with respect to the Gemini North Node, which I'm not going to repeat. That's you have a lot of power there, a lot of power that comes to you from that. But yeah, you have the big powers of discriminations. But one of the shadows I've seen with Mars and Virgo is that people sometimes because Mars is your action, it's your assertiveness function. It can make it seem like how do I say this without sounding? I guess I've seen it more negative in men's charts than women, but like they're great analyzers. They're great at seeing. It's basically, especially with Mercury, you see everything. And I'm not done with Mercury, by the way, but I've seen it basically be the kind of person that calls out, walks that people always think Virgo's so clean, so clean. Well, I've seen a lot of them that aren't. Not it's kind of more so that are clean, let's just say. But anyways, um, yeah, like I've seen Virgo energy like that where you just feel like you're walking on eggshells when you're around them, and like they're observing every little thing and kind of killing your dreams before so it can make people afraid to want to really so it's like if you can look at yourself and be like what is my level of openness, um or what is the level in which people feel they can be open with me, right? That will be giving you a lot of information. But yeah, Mars and Virgo, definitely goal oriented, practical, um, perfectionist, very perfectionist. And yeah, they can be a little bit passive aggressive too. They can be a little bit critical and really difficult when they're annoyed. And they can that's when that over criticism and like what I've noticed with people with that placement sometimes that they might not say something that's annoying them. And like I said, this, like, I've seen this not be the case. Everything in astrology is your chart needs the free will, right? Because in general, Mars and Virgo is also very humble and good at kind of moving towards their goals and whatnot, right? But there is also a very nervous energy and very perfectionist energy that needs to be handled. And yeah, even sexually, like Mars and sexuality, they can be like very perfectionist about their performance in bed, almost like it's their work, right? What I was gonna say is that it sounds more scorpionic than anything, right? But it's like they can be people who they don't say anything and then they're in a bad mood, and this thing that you didn't even think that they were like pissed about or that they thought about you, it just comes out, right? And it's weird, right? And Scorpio is 2 cents away from Virgo, so um they really have to get past their own, like, when a Virgo has this feeling that not everything is possible for them, like a lot of people, like myself included, want to believe that everything is possible, right? And I'm not saying you're not like that. Like a lot of Virgo people are like that too, right? And very good at living in the present moment. But that would be the shadow of that placement and why that placement gets so much shit. Yeah. Um, mm, so how does one get over perfectionism? Self-compassion. Um, perfectionism is all trauma. It's when we don't feel on a deep level that we deserve love based on our true essence and who we are as humans or as souls. We feel that we only deserve love and to be cared for based on the physical contributions we make. Like the kid that's like, I have to get straight A's, I have to be the head of the team, I have to do this to get my dad's attention. So a lot of times it does come from parents that are very, very, where, households. Well, actually, it really depends. I made a post about a video about this. It got no views yesterday because Instagram is fucking me. Excuse my language. But I was talking about just how I noticed with many double cancer sun and moons I've had that there's like the difference is night and day because cancer is ruled by the family. It rules the family between the cancer sun and moons who have good relationships with their parents or had whatever, and the ones who had broken families. It destroys them. And I think with Virgo, it's all, yeah, just in general, I think it's just like with perfectionism, it's just your experience with your family would be very, very important. And being able to tell yourself that I am enough. I am enough. Um, which is tough, right? It's tough to see ourselves. Virgo Pisces, it's tough to see ourselves. It's tough to really, especially because as I was saying, Mercury square your Neptune. Mercury, like I said, it's your way of talking, your way of thinking. I'm gonna close my eyes. I'm gonna zone like this. So Mercury Neptune people, oftentimes that it goes back to this theme of that I've seen your chart of language and being very, very good at the abstract, philosophical, the high end. But then when it comes to, there's a lot, and you may have gotten there, right? You're born in '83, so you've probably done a lot of work on this. But I've seen it where lots of paranoia exists, where they think that and sometimes they can be very, very psychic, right? It's a good indicator of that. But like there it's there's a lot of fog that can exist early on, and they can think it's like about understanding the difference between their intuition and learning to listen to that and their imagination, which is based imagination slash analytical mind, right? So if they can start, I've noticed they can start to get confused where it's actually based on their trauma and their experiences. So let's say that they're in a room and they notice like they have a party and someone's over, someone says a certain comment, and let's say I'm there and I hear the comment for what it was, and I'm pretty sure that I'm right, and I usually am with this types of thing, right? I'm like, oh, it was nothing, you know. And my girlfriend has it, so it's an easy aspect for me to understand, right? Like, oh, like she literally didn't mean anything by that. She might be like, no, 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 like it was way deeper, like, you know. And I'm just like, no, it wasn't that deep, you know, it wasn't that deep. Like she was not like you're way overthinking this. But then sometimes she'll have these incredible intuitions where she's actually right about something long term, but then she's also very wrong. So it's like the more that you kind of clear out that trauma, then you can lean into your real gifts, right? Because the trauma, what I mean is like where you're basing your opinion on a situation from a very subjective place. Like if you haven't fixed insecurity around, let's say, your body or whatever the fuck, and someone says something or laughs. Like I remember my girlfriend, she always used to like when people would laugh, like even like in public around us, she was insecure and she would think they're laughing at her, and I'd be like, no, like people are allowed to fucking laugh in public, like chill the fuck out, you know? So it can be a superpower once it's once that's gotten past. Um, but yeah, like focusing like once again, focusing on the basics of language is one of the keys for you in this lifetime. So I think having the Mercury in Virgo is spectacular. Now, honestly, Virgo, um, Mercury, Neptune people can be some like of the best tricksters too, magicians. And they have the ability to tap into their intuition. Um, but it's almost like there's a layer of fog that they have to get through first before getting to that high place. And usually it takes a little bit to get there. Um, it's one I see a lot with my clients. So, you know, I would say also that there's an overactive imagination is a good way to put it. That can interfere with the rational thought. So when one has that, they can deceive themselves, right? And they can see reality. It goes back to that whole subjective. What I was saying about having that very subjective view of reality, where it's like the filtered glass from that you see in churches. It's you know the light is the reality, and if your filter is not aligned with the filter matching truth, then you're gonna see things way differently. Um, yeah. So confronting the realities of yourself, the realities of the world, is the key. Um, I think disciplined kind of meditation practice is really good. Anything that can clear your mind. Virgo also, it's very good with the day to day and health. So, you know, having a good routine, I imagine, is something that's very good for you and very important. And obviously, it's like, you know, one of the most important things in life. So yeah, just like I think that goes like I think the Mercury Neptune is good for people with this to have time alone because sometimes they can take other people's mental energy and thoughts in too much. Um, yeah. Okay. So Venus rising obviously is making someone attractive and very warm and someone who wants to be involved in a relationship, and people will be attracted to their overall energy and they can be very good artists. It's just a great placement and it makes it so Columbia, South Carolina or anywhere around that. Let me just check. Yep. Will be a good location for you to live long term if that's, you know, where you like to live. Just because you'll have that astrophotography. That's a different reading I do if you're ever interested, but you'll have that line right there, which is that the Venus line will be where where you're born at. Hold on, I'm trying to get something. So, it makes your Venus strong. So, like I said, artist. Um, but sorry, it just makes the planet Venus really feature a lot in your personality. And since it's on the fixed star Regulus, which is the star of kings and or princes and kings, which I have as my ascendant. I have a tattoo of it. That's how big of a deal it is. Here we have and what's the orb? It's pretty close. Is it a day chart? Night chart? Night chart? Yeah, so it's stronger. I would say like it's really important. So it can give great talents, but and like I said, it's very kind of boss like energy. But you have to watch out for making um like it can actually be a difficult one where there can be setbacks in career and relationship. So it's like really important to be very careful um who you let in that essence, right? Um yeah, it can bring like very intense attachments. Um so yeah, just like being very prudent, which you have that Virgo is really important. Understand that anything that does happen. But the truth is that it's very hard to find information about this. I'm just gonna be honest. And I don't like a lot. Like that's why I don't really go into these. Like there's so much power in this. So like um I don't like a lot of the definitions it gives because usually like Regulus is about fame and abundance and popularity. So when I read something like that, I'm like, who the fuck said that? Like I would just think of it as a good thing. But I don't have enough. Like this is like information that's thousands of years old, right? Let me think in my head. Yeah, it does not make any sense. Let me look on. Let me look on here. Sorry. Actually, this okay. This one usually has okay information. Yeah, it's very hard to find. For ascendant midheaven, yeah. Sun, moon, okay. But then after, okay, here we go. So they give an example of someone who had issues with a woman in his life. I see a big theme of artists though, and spirituality. Interesting, because yeah, Venus rules women, so maybe this is more difficult because I've noticed that all the examples they're giving, it's like more difficult for the men with women. Yeah, like Monica Lewinsky though, that's a good one. Trouble through love affairs. But then it's talking about just like controversial. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to find stuff about that to be honest. But yeah, you got Regulus. And trust me, I don't want to go further into this. There it is. Okay. This person says, I think it just makes you very royal-like. This can be good or bad depending on your character. Things think of kings in the history of the world. Some were I like that. I like this way more than the other shit. This feels right. Think of kings in the history of the world. Some were kind, just and generous. Others were bloodthirsty, mean, and harsh. So it can make one very attractive, right? But then it's like, like are they able to kind of see strategize, right? Of who they should let in and not. But being a Virgo moon is good for that. But like it's Archangel Raphael, right? So you can maybe cater create some kind of relationship with that archangel. So yeah, I like that. I like that one way more. I'm happy I looked into that one. Okay. So Sun is unaspected. Okay. So Sun is unaspected, and then Mercury just has that one. So unaspected means that there's no checks and balances with that planet. It's not in a meaningful. Well, let me check for quincunx actually. Just look for. Well, I mean, it is a semi-sextile with the moon. I never look at that, but if it's between the two and it's exact, I need to look into that. Yeah, anything between sun and moon, it's like if it's that, okay, so let's see what it says. And I've never ever talked about semi-sextile. It's the first time. First time for everything. That means it's 30 degrees away. And I was just reading something earlier this week that was talking about like, why some astrologers swear by semi-sextiles because of the power of 30. Um, so it says here, you are more aware than most people of the need to make adjustments in life and of the stop and go energy of life. You may find that you are frequently in the position to adjust your path and your behavior in order to adapt to others and to life's circumstances. Often you may find that you are in no-win situations in which you feel you have to choose a path that conflicts with your inner needs. Indecision is something you may struggle with up until you find ways to satisfy your conscious wishes slash needs and your inner desires at once. Okay. It says here it's like good for, feeling in touch with your feelings, the ability to connect with others on an emotional plane. Okay, okay, okay. But yeah, besides that, unaspected. But um, sometimes unaspected, some people they feel like it's difficult for them to feel like they fit in, right? And it doesn't make like some people say they have a big ego, huge desires. It's not necessarily that. Um, I would say that it can give like kind of assertive attitude. Um, a lot of times the father wasn't that present, but not always, whether it's physically or emotionally. And um, like they can be really, really good leaders, but they don't always feel like they are meant for that. And the Virgo moon, like I said, it can be over analytical. And sometimes I always say Virgo people, they're here, other people are here, but they think they're here, other people are here. And that's kind of the whole journey of reprogramming the mind through affirmations, through just being really mindful of. We can talk about this in the fall. You have to remind me that about that topic about reprogramming the mind with affirmations. And we can, if you know, especially if you get the full session or like the extended the current astrology where we go into everything about. So I didn't really explain that. Follow up is all about just like all about the natal comparing. It's like you bring in your notes and we compare everything. Your live life with what I said, and then current astrology is completely different. It's like transits, progressions, solar arc, solar return. I use those for house ingress, those five predictive tools to tell you about the now and like the year ahead and also even the past. We really get into it. It's very deep. So it makes things make a lot of sense and get you ready for the energetic weather ahead. Um, so yeah, like I think people with that can be quite introspective and like feel like they can only trust themselves at times. Okay. Oh yeah, Venus and Mars together. So that adds even more of this like charisma and this passion, especially to your external how you are, right? And it's like a good blend of like attraction and assertiveness. In love, it can definitely give very high expectations for a partner, and like Virgo moons also can have very high expectations for a partner, and Mars and Virgo sometimes can like it's like I'll be right back. You can still hear me. It's almost like what I noticed is that it's almost like sometimes they are, seeking out, um, like looking for the red flags too much. It's like, all right, chill. Um, but it can kind of Venus, Mars can, and I have this by the way, but mine are in Aquarius. Yours are in Leo and Virgo, different signs. But it can give, it can definitely give like a love hate energy in relationships, but it can also really, yeah, really fuse that. Like it could actually make it. Well, the fact that it's in different signs kind of flips that over, huh? Yeah, because I was gonna say it can kind of make it add some like assurance of their type, but in this case, yeah, it just makes them very passionate in relationships, and there can be this a lot of desire for love and for affection, where relationships can take a lot of their time. Mars to Venus can, yeah, makes, and it also like can create someone who's very good with money, who really is good at kind of having that hustler mentality, if you want to call it that. Um, but also, yeah, Mars to Venus can increase the sex drive and the intimacy level of intimacy, which can be difficult, like especially at the start of relationships. With that, I've noticed that people with that can come on a little bit strong, and sometimes not everyone can match that. But then they're very good at getting partners to, like, it's not like finding a new partner usually comes easy for people with that, right? There's like this magnetism they have. Enjoying flirting, for example, is common. And yeah, like very like it definitely makes someone like Venus with Mars, it can make someone very like with the Virgo, very like their trajectory in their career and what they want is just, very consistent. They know what they want, very goal oriented. And with that one, I would say that your relationship with your father would be very, very significant to your relationships. Like your relationship with your father when young, very significant to your relationships with in dating. If you're, I don't know if you're heterosexual or not. If you are, but yeah, that'd be the case. And if not, just with men in your life in general. Um, Now Venus trine Neptune is a beautiful aspect. Um, what happens there? So Venus trine Neptune's hiding. I know it's over here. No, it's over here. here. So Venus Neptune is like one of the most artistic placements you can have because it combines Venus trine Neptune. Um, well, romantically, it makes someone very gentle, very caring, very intuitive to the needs of their partner. Like I said, any Libra just needs to know to not be codependent and give, and never take for themselves. But like it's very artistic and creative, and it's someone who might have past life talents with that, and very, very compassionate and good at knowing what other people need. Now, it's like mixing the inspiration, the imagination, which is Neptune, with the ability. It's like the Van Gogh painting, the Starry Night painting. It's like he had to have the Neptunian idea to paint it, of what he was going to paint. That's the Neptune. Venus was his ability to actually paint it. So you can think about how the fusion that energy would work overall in life. But yeah, I think it's a great one, and I think it can really, it's very, yeah, very romantic. And it's not a square, so I think with any Venus Neptune, you have to watch out for like having too high of expectations and um writing someone off too fast. But I would say with a trine, it's more likely to attract spiritual unions. Now, more with love, you have Juno, which represents kind of your ideal partner, which is very close to it's in your ninth house classes, 10th house full sign, so in Taurus. And that is basically very, very complementary to everything I was saying about Virgo, right? It's like your ideal partner is someone who is consistent, who is practical, who is also in the here and now and not playing games, not bullshit. It's like more of like, it's less of like you see people sometimes with charts who have this kind of this energy when it comes to love where they're never satisfied. And I know I mentioned the Uranus square moon, right? But overall, it's like someone who really wants to build something, and also someone who can provide security, whether it's financial, emotional, um, whatever. And the fact that it's in the ninth house, we can look at those in two different ways. We can say it could be someone from a different culture, an adventure buddy, someone who you can really grow philosophically with, or someone. Did I just say someone from a different culture? Uh, but yeah, that, if I didn't say it, or also someone who has their shit together with career, right? Mm. Well, look at that. So you have the exact same midheaven as me. The reason I say that, and if you book the current astrology, we'll get more into it. But in April, let's see. Sorry, my mom's messaging me about we need to leave. 8:05. Okay, I'm good. So, um, you're gonna have the Uranus Jupiter conjunction, which is happening in April, like I said, right on your midheaven. So this could be a massive year for you, in terms of your growth professionally, life purpose, meeting karmic people, your overall view, the overall view that people have of you. So that's a great one. I have, like I said, same thing. I'm very excited for it. I mean, I'm trying not to think about it, but I've already seen some very good things come in already. So I hope it's the same for you. Um, so I'm curious if you have siblings, if there's any energy there that's difficult, any restrictive energy there. And also, Saturn where it is can indicate many things. It could also speak to this theme of, potentially like something with communication, maybe being very shy when young, maybe feeling like you couldn't really let yourself truly speak um in that authentic way. And Chiron is in Gemini. There you go. I see that all the time. So that I link that. I see it enough to where it's like someone who a lot of times they had like, yeah, some type of communication problem when young, or they doubted their own intelligence. So yeah, being able to move into a place where you see yourself and your intelligence and your way of talk of thinking and all that, that's the journey, right? And it's through your friends and through your goals and your contributions to humanity. And even, it's close to your midheaven Chiron, so it could be even a career as a healer, right? That's how you really, really benefit in that sense. and move past some of that. Um, I think you're a very powerful communicator. I've always said that. Like I think that there's a real depth to your communication. So maybe it's just about, like I said, there's the high, but then, and I have the same thing. I can relate if you relate to what I'm saying. Um, where yeah, it can be very easy at the high level, but at the low like mundane level, it can be a little bit tricky. And let's see, so Saturn. Um, yeah. Once again, Saturn and Pluto together. That's someone who's just, a very powerful person, very ambitious leader, someone who really can be like, you know, they have to see themselves first. They have to learn to use their unique insights, like I've said in your chart, for like to bring people together, and to kind of, boost themselves and boost others. Now I want to pull this and blast this in this deck, but I guess what I would say also is that creativity, your Jupiter is in Sag, right? So that's someone who is just a natural philosopher. They usually have this very internal dialogue around philosophy, around their ideas, and sometimes, like I said, it can be a little bit hard to share it. In the fifth with Uranus, it's like very, very good for charges real quick. It's very good for people with that. A lot of times have quite unusual hobbies. Um, and Jupiter, it's like they always want to expand and play. They want to travel. They want to see the world. They want to understand different cultures. And it's through that play, the balance of play and order in your chart, and even as a Libra, creativity, um, that a lot happens that's good, right? Hold on. Okay, so okay, yeah, and then Neptune there too. I mean that it's basically like it whenever if you have a creative outlet, it'd be very, very like, I'm not gonna say sad, but it'd be wasteful if you didn't have some type of creative outlet for yourself. And it doesn't sometimes Virgos, and a lot of people, not just Virgos, feel like there's no point in me having this creative outlet unless other people are gonna see it, unless it's gonna get the views. That's just like the modern day thought sometimes. But it's very important to know that you're gaining through your creating. Even me doing this right now, I'm opening my energy up. That it was way less open before I started doing this reading. And now it's like my energy's open, right? And it's a very good example because we can, as humans, we can really get into modes where sometimes like, and it also reflects your work, right? And it reflects a lot of things. I'll get into the romantic aspects of that too. But we can get into these modes where we start to think, even if we love our work, and this would indicate someone who wants to have a work that they truly love, that opens them up spiritually, that opens up that real open mindedness, that real anything is possible energy. But yeah, sometimes we get in those modes and we push ourselves away from the things that really make us feel open. So it's really about finding what makes you really makes that fire burn and following that. And with Venus rising, I think that's just, there's so many aspects, areas of your chart. Now it's interesting because I've done a lot of readings for people where I've found this creativity in their chart, and then they're like, well, I'm not really creative. And I tell them, look, creativity is something that you have to find. Everything in your chart is something you have to find. You like, I've seen people who are super creative, but they get complacent, right? They don't try. I'm sure you can think of people you've gone to high school with, or people you've known who were not necessarily like that creative naturally, but they just like tried really, really hard. Um, so sometimes these types of placements can indicate not doing that. All right. So there's different aspects in your chart, Black Moon Lilith, Descendant, Chiron, Venus, that would indicate pain in relationships, but also the ability to really, um, through that pain, find self-love. So Chiron and Mars is square. Chiron, Venus and Mars are square Chiron. So it can, yeah, it definitely, like, early relationships could be very painful. There's like this need to face the early childhood feelings, especially if there's any rejection that happens, to develop that self-compassion. So a lot of times I think with Chiron and Pluto with Venus, it's like it's almost like the relationships can be this place that shows someone where they have pain, right? It's like, and it's very easy to project that onto the other person, but a lot of people grow through that. Um, okay. So Mars in Virgo is square Uranus. I didn't see that one, and Jupiter and Chiron. So it's really making a lot of squares. It's actually making a T square, which shoots out in Pisces at the eighth house. And essentially, like, that's a little bit of a reckless energy. Mars square Jupiter is all about, and it helps, like I said, it helps you to have this Virgo energy. This is really good because Mars square Jupiter on its own can be reckless, and it can, like, be very impulsive and, you know, too much risk taking, right? And then with Uranus, it's similar but different, where there's just this enormous energy level and it's hard to control it, and it can also be very impulsive and, like, always wanting to do that thing that shocks people that's different, right? But it's like this very, very genius energy, and that might be something that was shut down early on. So it makes someone very courageous, both of these. So, like, it indicates someone with your chart that could be a very good risk taker, especially with the analytical energy you have. Like, this could be a really good chart for someone who's meant to work in an industry like investments or something where they have to still be able to take risks, right? um Speculation per se, but then fifth house is the house of speculation, and you have Jupiter there, right? So it's like there is energy for some type of career like that, but yeah, just want to add that in there. And then, midheaven being um in Taurus, that's, I think of that as like people, the public, like, will see you as, like, I'm the same midheaven as you. So, like, I was trying to wrap my head for so many years on what the fuck does this mean? I'm not Taurus at all. And someone once told me, you come off on social media, because midheaven's kind of how you come off on social media, how you come off to the world, people that don't really know you, right? And they said you come off as very trustworthy. And I was like, damn, that's true. Like, people do trust me, and I am like that, really. So that, but also, like, people with that, they do tend to want a level of stability. It could even be economic stability. But they really, really want, like the goal is to do something and find that thing that you really love and to continue to be able to do that. And that's where the greatest goals come. If you're always changing, like, it's not bad to change and try different things if you're not satisfied with what you're doing. And people have energies, or they have life purposes, or, especially with your nodes in Gemini, where it would be good, to test things out. But it's really about finding that one or two things that you love. Sometimes it's like you can have the money maker and the passion, and the goal is to get the passion to become the money maker one day. But anyways, back to what I was saying about Mars and then square Chiron. Um, so I have said a lot of good things about your ability to be assertive, but with Libra, the scales, sometimes people with this, they feel like their power has been zapped. Like, where they fear anger. Like, so it's like being able to be good with your anger. Um, Whether it's, yeah, fearing being met with anger or fearing your own anger. So it's really about the sense of the sense of, what's the word, self-esteem, self-worth, right? And really honoring your way of doing things. So the fact that, so it's a T square, it's like two planets like this. Well, actually, it's one and two down here, so it's three, but whatever. And then one at the apex. So the apex is Mars. So with the Martian energy, the key is Pisces eighth house. There's no planets, there's no signs there, or no planets there, but that's where it's like a bow and arrow where it shoots out. That's the healing. And that, my friend, is that's me. I'm a eighth house Pisces, Sun, and Mercury. But that is about being willing to allow yourself to die metaphorically. allow yourself to let go, allow yourself to go through death, rebirth, transformation, to dive deep into spirituality and to find your passions in that way, right? Through shadow work and just growth in general, which and awareness, right? And my guess is when people come to me for readings that they've already embarked on that spiritual journey in some way. Now I forgot to look. Where you at? Where you at? Okay. So I'm gonna look at your email. I like to do that. I like to like wait till like the very end. Um, to read the Squarespace, what you wrote. Okay, here we go. Karmic events, destiny connections to past lives. Okay, so you're asking about events. So events, I don't go into events. That's the current astrology reading. Okay, I see what you're saying. They were fated and meant to push me. Yeah, so everything with respect to what you're saying in the email. So the way I do my astrology is that I want to give everyone the natal chart. That's what you start with because that's the map, and the way that I interpret it might be different than how other people interpret it. So then in the current astrology, that's where we can dive into you know, into those types of subjects. It's always fascinating too. I actually like doing that, even though it's like it's not the reading, the reading is more about the now and the year ahead. I have been diving into the past for people, because it helped me learn, especially with some of the systems I'm working with now. And when I learn something, I don't really like to learn from other people. I kind of like to learn it on my own. I can take little clues from other people, but yeah. So I feel pretty good about my life relationships right now. So the history of how I got here would be interesting. Also curious about career trajectory, changing jobs and industries a lot. And I'm not in I'm free to my true calling. Yeah, so that goes to what I was just saying, right? Um, that goes to what I was just saying, that there can, with the Uranus square, there can be this feeling of like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But I've said a lot about leadership and a lot about um, and with Neptune on the midheaven, it could be, where you could be at a point where you are, hold up, 30, 41, 41, 41. Interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if in a year you move. Let's put that out there. But yeah, definitely like healing. When you have that many Chiron aspects, healing is huge. It's something you have massive potential. Um, but I think like yeah, one of the big lessons is like just having like these massive, like just like other people not living up to your ideals, right? I imagine that being a big theme, like it was just we were talking about earlier. And I think like when you dedicate yourself to a cause that really, really like, because like I said, 11th house North Node, like a cause that really, really means something to you, where you're able to take that wisdom and give it to other people. I feel like that will stimulate that North Node in Gemini, especially if it's something where you're able to talk to people from all walks of life, right? And I tell a lot of people like, careers in healing, like in some type of healing is really good. I think that's what the world needs. But the question always becomes more pragmatic, more practical. It's like, are you able to do that, right? With the world we live in, with, if you live in America, the cost of living and all that. So that's something that you need to ask yourself. But what I would say is that there's a lot of energy in your chart that's very good for these types of things. Now, I want to pull this in a different, in Placidus. And yeah, like I think you definitely are able to work with other people. I mean, networking could be something that would be good for you, that you'd be good at. Libras are just generally good, Vesta, Gemini, Libra sun, like generally very good with when it comes to that type of thing, and even like Ceres in Aquarius seventh, that could be someone who really loves to nurture other people through what they give, through what they're doing, giving to humanity. They're sort of giving their own personal genius, right? Because you have Uranus squaring two planets, sun and moon, which are separated by 8, and it's kind of right, pretty much right in the middle of the two. So it's that kind of, yeah, Uranus really is a big part of you, which makes you a lot more Aquarian, even though don't have any planets in Aquarius. So also that's your descendant is Aquarius, and your Black Moon Lilith in Aquarius. So Black Moon Lilith in Aquarius, I think of Black Moon Lilith. Everyone has their own way of talking about it. For me, it represents the sort of you at your lowest potential. I mean, there's a lot I can go into about Black Moon Lilith, but um, someone told me once that you're not supposed to say the black. You're supposed to say Black Moon L. You're not supposed to say it, but I don't give a fuck. Um, I guess what I would say with Aquarius is that, especially in your seventh, that maybe like, I mean, without looking at the rest of your chart, it could just indicate partners being jealous of you where it is, or having issues with partners in some sense. It shows, where you need to meet your shadow self. So, um, you know, being someone who's very individualistic, who wants to maintain that independence at any price. I wonder in relationships how easy that is for you. And it's the same for me if that is for you, because it's all about freedom and not losing yourself. Like, okay, I'll give you an example from my life. I need a ton of space. I need to sleep in my own bedroom. And right now I'm away from my girlfriend. It's been over a month. For me, it's amazing. It's not like I want to get away from her. It's just like I need to. If there's any chance of it working, I need to be doing my own thing. So it can, like, if you feel like your soul is locked up, and sometimes I like it can be really, really bad. And people with that, sometimes they can just, yeah, they're not really get so attached to people. Like they can almost want to like have this more aloof energy, and there can be trust, like, yeah, there can be learned, like it can be something where the person has learned not to trust other people because of the hurt it brings. A lot of times it would be like traumatic childhood stuff, betrayals of sorts, right? um just something I've seen promiscuity at least at some point in life. Like I said, this is something that can be changed. Just that, like, I've seen that with this placement, or just needing freedom when it comes to sex, not really want, and just relationships, also just not really wanting to be restricted by traditional relationships. So commitment issues, of course, as I said earlier, can feature, but it doesn't mean that someone, like, when I don't care what placements you have, when you find the right partner, like, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter, right? That's how I feel. Now, I do think that let's say there's someone like with placements like that I'm seeing in your chart, and someone who's just like very much not like that. I guess like for one person, it can be a lot easier to just accept this is it. For another, it can just be like, you know, it can be harder for them to like say like, okay, I'm staying with this person. That's it, right? So yeah. So I think, yeah, the way that you can learn to express that eccentric, individualistic part of your nature is very important. And like people with this, sometimes they repress their authentic self because at a young age, as I was saying earlier, when they started really rebelling against norms, they kind of got shut down in some way. So yeah, that's kind of how I would put that. If we think about Black and Lilith reflecting a fear, Aquarius could be the fear of powerlessness. Um, right? Like, when you fear being powerless, um, it can make us sort of hide our weakness from the world and isolate. So that can come from like, having that criticism early on. And, the projection, right, is just being very judgmental, right? Especially towards people that maybe are like we deem as weak. Um, so it's like this ability to really build people up or crush them. So they can really kind of fear powerlessness or fear their own power. So really like looking at your relationship with power, I think is really, really good. And it goes back to that whole kind of self-reinforcement and just the reprogramming of the mind and getting good at like I said, like the Gemini energy, getting really good at work at building yourself up. Okay. So let's see what else. I definitely think you have like a very intelligent approach and a very wise approach to your day-to-day life and to the moves that you make. So I like Capricorn Palace. I think it's almost like a chess player, someone who might like their strat when in life we have to strategize, right? And they might really take a very kind of, slow, steady, but like very logical approach, right? They won't necessarily go crazy, but they'll do the right thing. They'll make the right moves at the right time. Yeah, so I wonder like if there's any workaholism with, Saturn and Scorp. Um, like definitely a lot of commitment to what you do. Maybe it wasn't after 30, and maybe, it wasn't after 30, first 30 years, maybe with sexuality and just diving into yourself, maybe that could have been difficult back then. But yeah, it's very good for self-discipline. Um, and it can make someone quite secretive too, but it's good for psychic ability, right? But that definitely could have opened up post return. Um, mm, yeah, just make someone do things in a very intense way. But there can be, that low side of Scorpio, stubbornness, revenge, holding resentments in, lack, not wanting to forgive people, right? So it goes back to power too, like does one find power in money and prestige and whatnot or within themselves? So it's really about transforming one's desires with Scorpio Saturn. Death, rebirth, transformations of what one desires and and being able to learn when and how to let go of people, places, things, um, ways of being, etc. And what can happen on the health level, psychosomatic level, is that um, if one holds on to anger, it can actually cause issues with the kidneys, gallbladder. Um, yeah, even like, Scorpio rules the private parts, so it can be problems with things like hemorrhoids, constipation. So yeah, everything is psychosomatic in the end, right? So once that energy is moving, and like I said, this is all about the T square shooting into that eighth house, Pisces, and then Neptune ruling the eighth house from the fifth. It's just about how, you know, your creative passions and actually you diving into your past life talents um, can be very, very, very powerful. Hold on, hold on. So let me just like look at this real quick. Different viewpoints. All right. So yeah, in Plastus, a lot becomes in the second house. Um, Moon goes to the first, so that is interesting. I think first house moons are quite adaptable, ambitious. They're actually good when it comes to it kind of they're independent. Um, and yeah, I mean they care a lot about keeping that independence, right? And I've said these things before. You see everything comes up in its own way. So yeah. Sun is I guess I could say more things about that. So yeah, a very high emotional intelligence first house moons have, but their emotions can be very up and down too. Um, but it definitely adds a lot of charm and a lot of ability, usually to express the emotions, right? Especially with Venus and Mars there, there's usually a good ability for that. But like I said, it is in Virgo. I see a lot of artists with first house moons, and people who are. So yeah, it's interesting, right? People with that usually are quite emotional and don't hide their feelings, but then a lot of the placements, so it can be a little bit of both, right? Curious about that. Um, yeah. So first house is linked to Aries, so they have first house moon. Sometimes they can want to like be very much the center of attention, especially Leo rising. Like really wanting to be appreciated, especially you know by the mother. Um, like wanting to like when young, wanting to have to be like a good kid and make the mom and parents proud. Um, Usually the mother plays a big role. So yeah. So overall, let's see. I kind of like both systems, to be honest. So yeah, you're here to really develop your values a lot as well, and I always call it the constitution of self. It's also very very good for money. Sun, the second house in Libra, business could very good for business. Um, but not. It's like all about because money can come and go. Um, so it's really about finding the balance between metaphysical value and physical value, right? And having a very solid value system, very moral value system, and you make your decisions based off of that. And as a Libra, that's really, really important, right? Sometimes the shadow of that is people identifying too much with their possessions, with their money, with their status. And it's like their self-esteem can go up and down based on their financial situation too much. So yeah, that's like the shadow. Um, but yeah, it is usually very good when it comes to see a lot of millionaires and stuff who have second house sons, very high earning power. And if it's not millionaires, just someone very high salary, right? Which can very much be a millionaire. Um, a lot of second house son people come from money. It's not always the case. Um, Maybe their dad was in business and they, learned a lot about business and finances from the father. I've seen that. But yeah, like I think there's like this idea of like wanting to kind of earn wealth early in life and have financial independence. And when it's there for a reason, right? It's great for leadership and whatnot. But it's like with Libra, as I said, it's just about being able to balance like Aries and Libra. But yeah, very curious about if there's any siblings and relationships there because Saturn and Pluto can kind of create some interesting energy. Also, be careful with. This isn't a crazy fucking warning. I'm just saying, if you drive, like in your city, like just be careful with Pluto and Saturn there. Okay, so let's see what else changes. Yeah, so basically, like Uranus and Neptune falling in the fourth instead of the fifth, South Node falling in the fourth instead of the fifth. The way I would take that is that like the karmic journey is also about it's kind of similar, right? It's like it's really about taking the energy, the base energy, the foundational energy, the energy that you've had in past lives, and taking it higher, taking it to a place where you're able to, like I've said before, use your gifts for the benefit of humanity and for your dharma. It's like the balance between inner life and outer life. Maybe you've held yourself back and you've stayed too much like in the home, away from like the real world and all the dynamism that's there. Jupiter Uranus is very interesting fourth house because Jupiter fourth house indicates you know it's a good thing usually for childhood. Uranus indicates the changes, right? So it could have been like there's a million different ways it could be, but they're not so tucked in the fourth house, right? They're not like right on the IC. So and different signs too. So that's why I'm not looking at those so like intensely, you know what I mean? All right, let me just check one more thing, and then we'll finish. Okay. Okay, so you have Zosma. So you have two. Zosma is it's very much about the occult esoteric on your moon and wanting to. So it's not surprising when I have Virgo placements. And the nebula is close to your Mercury, so those are two of the three in Babylonian astrology astrologer placements, or just someone who wants to do something similar to astrology. So it's not surprising me that you have that. Um, it adds this real spiritual energy to your Virgo placements, and someone who wants to get to the beneath the surface and know the secrets of life, occult secrets, all that stuff. You have Serpentis on the IC. I haven't seen that, so you need to report back to me about this. But that is one of the most harsh stars in astrology, and on the IC is childhood. So that could have been some real darkness in childhood, but you get back to me with that. And Scorpio's on your IC too, like me. So sometimes people with that, they feel a level of powerlessness during childhood, and they want to have this stability in their career that kind of opposes that. Or like crisis early on in childhood, or just like a very intense kind of emotionally intense situation. Um, so you have one of the three. Don't ask me. Everyone always asks me, what are the which asteroids? You can search on Google which asteroid, Circe, Circe, and then there's Lilith, and then there's I think the Hecate is the third. But you have Circe with Jupiter, and all I can say is that a lot of my most occult based, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, people who are just gifted in this stuff have that. So that's interesting. Um, that's very interesting. And you might have fated people in your life that have the sign Capricorn or even Cancer, perhaps. But yeah, like Capricorn, and it could be through creativity. Oh, also one thing I forgot to say with Neptune, the fifth house, super important. people with Neptune in the fifth house, they have to be really careful with love affairs. It's like in the fifth house is the early stage of love affairs. Also with speculation, it's important to be very like if that's something you're doing, to be very very slow with it, right? To not jump into things, to really because like there can be like a over idealistic energy, and that's the same thing in love. I've seen so many people with that fifth house Neptune, myself included, where they have to get really, really good at not being overly idealistic and thinking, oh, just because, like they meet someone and it's like twin flame energy right away and then it fizzles off. The amount of people I've talked to, see, like I come up with these things on my own, right? Like I test these things. That's why I really appreciate if you're taking notes and when you schedule the follow up with me via email, jessenisinastrology@gmail.com, that I can get, I'm like all about data. So if something doesn't work, that's when I start to state less of my readings. But I've done so many readings at this point that I have a lot of data. Um, but anyways, yeah. So that's interesting. Stirche with Jupiter. So I think that Jupiter would just expand your abilities to be a witch in whatever way you want to take that, right? If that's someone who's very esoteric minded and someone who's doing ceremonies, herbs, whatever, right? So it's very cool stuff. Anyways, a lot for you to chew on. I hope you enjoyed. Let's see, did I do 2 hours? 156. Can never keep it under. But I'm about to, I got like an hour before I leave for the bus. My plane is at 1 a.m. Crazy. To Panama and then to Colombia. So I don't know how this is gonna load. I'm just gonna keep this open, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I'm doing this on Thursday, 6:56 right now, Pacific. So we'll see when you receive it. Hopefully I can get it up fast, but we'll see. I'm just gonna leave this open for the next hour or so, and hopefully, maybe it uploads. But anyways, thanks so much. Let me know about that other reading. I'm working when I'm in Colombia or when I'm in South America. I'm not just vacationing and going crazy. I'm gonna be working. So just please do message me and we can get something set up whenever you want to have that set up. All right. Gracias. Thank you. Bye bye.